Hello, and welcome to Intuitive Clarifications with Natasha. I am here to support you in your life's journey, and I'm going to have Janet Hickox on here in about 15 or 20 minutes to say things. And she is an amazing astrologer who does gene keys and also does human design. She also likes to really understand the backside of what like Aries represents, Mars represents, and all that kind of stuff. So I forget the word that called, but she's going to be on after she gets kind of done with her session and then be able to come on. And I'm just grateful that she said she was willing to change gears so quickly and come on my show. So, but right now, I want to talk a little bit about the emotional side of what we're going through. I know that for me personally, and I know many who are going through things that, it's like, are we setting up new boundaries? Yes. Are we able to set up new understandings about ourselves? Yes. Are we able to find self love right now that is greater than we've ever been before? Yes. Are we able to voice some great understandings of who we are by taking our empowerment back? Yes. So if you are in the negotiation of a lot of those things I just said, boundaries, self-love, voicing our true self, all those kinds of things, I'm along for that ride. I've had some deep conversations with people around me lately about finding my personal truth about that I am okay the way I am, right? It doesn't matter what other people think the way my brain is. Yes, I know I can work on things. Yes, I know that it's up to me to negotiate it. Yes, it's up to me to be where I'm at. But the thing is, though, I can tell you my house is cleaner than it's been in a very long time. My house has been more organized than it's been in a very long time. My house, myself, has been more on track for doing things better than I've done before. Now, my newsletter, I'm trying to get that out, has been a little bit more delayed because of the dyslexic moments that I've been in and then struggling through a lot of those mental, like, I just got to persevere through this. I just got to persevere through this. I just want to persevere. I want to persevere through this. See how I changed that language? So with that knowing that we're going through so much in our life right now, that it's amazing that we are mentally sane. So if you're being a little off lately, if you're being a little moment lately, it's part of this dance. And it's okay though to be a little disruptive in speaking a truth. I know for me personally that I had some deep conversations that actually didn't go as smoothly as I wanted them to, but on the back side of it, on the back understanding of it, that it was amazing how sometimes we can't judge something right then. We have to let it work its way through. And that might take a week or two of somebody absorbing a conversation. It might take a week or two of life saying, oh, that's what you want. If you're manifesting, it might take a little bit of time for things to happen if you're negotiating things. For me, this summer, I really was working on my cortisol level. My intention of my cortisol, my hi Veronica, thank you for being here. My fear and flight, that nervous system part of me. I really wanted to make sure that it was safe. And that was part of a lot of this conversation that came forth in the last 24, 48 hours, was that I deserve to be safe in spite of it. And I can tell you that my body is feeling so much more lighter because of that conversation, because I was in that mindset, because I wasn't doing things to be mean. I wasn't saying things like the you. No, it was, I needed this. This is what I need. This is what my feelings are. This is what I was wanting to have happen. And I was grateful for these other people. And when they would say, but you don't know. And I said, but I do understand that. I know what this is. And I listed the things that I did know, all these different things. And it wasn't to prove people wrong. It was just to say that I'm not wrong. There's a 50-yard mark, right? So these eclipses and these moments are here to really show us that we're here to be our greater self. And I pulled some cards at the beginning here because I know as she comes on, it will be soon. And I just wanted to pull some universal cards for people but the first one um, was restriction, right? That restriction that we have. What are we meant to be? We're meant to let go of that restriction in our life. That, we have a lot of the outer world that's changing right now. But I can tell you, yes, it's affecting me. Yes, it's interacting with me. Yes, it's going to be part of that process that's going to be the the process of life moving forward, the evolution. There we go, find that word. The evolution of life happening is part of the outer world that needs to happen, right? But the thing is, with that outer world, I'm really in charge of the inner world, that inner knowing. And that's the restriction that we need to be releasing of is that we got to be done with the restriction of other people's expectations. It's like it's okay to have wants and desires that other people have of us. Like my husband has the desire that I get dinner done by a certain time because I have a different schedule than he does. But the thing is, though, it's like I understand that that's one of his triggers, and I'm working on it, just like keeping certain things, negotiated because he's got a lot of stress in his life. So I want to help him by not putting on those triggers. But at the same time, though, the expectation of that needed to change, right? So the restriction of that, because the fact that it's the letting go of what we are. And so the restriction card is a 35, which is an 8, as above as below, right? And so also the letting go is a 44, so that's an 8. And that's a very powerful number, is a 44. That letting go is part of what restrictions do we have on ourselves, right? What restrictions do we have that we have on ourselves of our mindset, our story, like I'm letting go of a lot of the restriction I have about my ADHD dyslexic brain. It's going to do what it wants to do. And I can tell you, when I was taking off that wallpaper, it was so nice to let anything go and just mature where it needed to go. And so if you can, do some weeding, do some walking, do some showering, go in the shower and just let that mind of yours just run sometimes, because that is part of like the earth fairy that came up after those cards. And the earth fairy is physical health, grounding, and foundation. So if we know ourselves better, and that is a 27, which is a 9, which is endings for new beginnings, right? That evolution of what we're needing to do and the environment that we're in is very important, because then frog came up. That is our environment. That's what we do. What are we taking in on our bodies? What are we doing with our understanding? What are we doing in the energies that we're at? And that's a 14, which is a 5, right? So, the cleansing of the house, the releasing of emotional baggage, right? Well, what is that? Going back to what we had before, the restriction and the letting go. So, because you have to have disruption in order to negotiate all of that I was just talking about. And that disruption is what these eclipses and full moons and new moons and whatever season that we're in right now, this September, is about the disruption to get ourselves to let go, to be done with the restriction, to have our house cleansed, right? Our environment cleansed. I know I'm releasing a lot of things so that we can be more earth and grounded, right? So it is about who and what we are right now. And it's really finding our total empowerment. And, if we can honor ourselves, because instead of mulling over it in our head, right, that sometimes we have to voice it to somebody. And Veronica, I know you're here right now with me, and I'm grateful whoever else is here. Thank you for being here. That, it's like, I'm so proud of you, girl, because you have come into your empowerment, that a lot of this angst that you had about this day to come actually is like evolving into what it's meant to be. And it's amazing that you can go forward into this story of your new beginning, which is a lot of endings. It's that nine, right? It's that as above, as below. It's that interaction of where we're at and what we're doing that's going to make and help us be ourselves. And I can tell you that me working on my cortisol and my nervous system and my mitochondria and whatever is attached to all that, that I'm finding myself being healthier than I've ever been, you know, mentally, physically, and spiritually, because I'm honoring what other people think of me, but in a way, am balancing it with, it doesn't really matter what you think of me, right? And so I'm not trying to dishonor what people think, because especially with the people I live with, I do affect them. But the thing is, though, when you're thinking about certain things, it's like on the scale of wrong and rights and hardships, it's pretty like not that effective. And so going into this, that who are we really supposed to be? And it's part of that understanding. While I was saying that, it turned the how long I was on this show so far was 11:11 for a few seconds, or for a second, right? So going into this, that we're all in the midst of how can we be and how can we do. And life is about learning. Life is about showing up and being willing to be uncomfortable, you know be uncomfortable with be comfortable with the disruption, so that we can let go, of the restriction and the story, right? Because our environment does matter. And you know we are in the midst of a lot of power here, right? A lot of power, because the lady of the lake wants to show us that, even though this wind is blowing around us, even though the story is coming around us, that even if we're in the middle of a lot of things, that the absolute truth, the courage, the self-respect, and the responsibility is so much in our own understanding. And I'm going to come back to this, that yes, we are responsible for what we bring to the room. We are responsible for the energy we bring into a thought and a statement. We are responsible for all those things. The thing is, though, we have to honor that with a form of our truth that can be respectful and honorable, because the dragon is here to show us that we have the power and the strength, and we have the wisdom to do it. And so it's time for us to stand in our empowerment, but not wield the blade, but honor the blade. We honor the flame and the fire, but yet don't always blow people down with it. So, when we can and when we are in the midst of life and doing life, it's never a straight line. The journey of life is never straight. And it's really an interesting balance when we can support ourselves and be kind to ourselves. So, like I was saying, try to eat good while you can. I have some coworkers that, it's like they're in the middle of some stomach problems and issues, and here they're not willing to stop eating McDonald's. It's like our bodies are talking to us. Our understandings are talking to us. Our knowledge is talking to us. And if we don't listen, that's when we're going to start having life a little harder. And, we're in the middle of like, where do we buy our meat? Where do we buy our story? Where do we go with all this different thing? Because, right now that's the outer world that's affecting us. Not going to get on a soapbox. But I'm using Janet's words, because she gets on soapboxes sometimes, but then she gets off of them. Excuse me. So how do you go forward in this? Is just finding those truths that can work with you and be honored with you, and finding that grace that you can with yourself. And, it's not necessarily wrong or right. It's just about being in the moment that you are. And I'm kind of, just dilly-daddling here, because I know that she can come on at any time here. So I didn't want to get a deep thought going here and then have her come in, because, we're here. So I noticed with me that I'm sleeping. I don't know if everybody else is doing this, but I've heard a couple people dreaming more. I've heard of people sleeping deeper, not sleeping very well at all, tired at certain points of the day. I know for me, I'm doubling up on my vitamin Bs. I'm doubling up on my D. I'm doubling up on a lot of zinc and that kind of stuff because I know my body is getting pretty pressured into supporting me. And I just want to honor it and negotiate its story, my body's story, so that we can move into where we're at and what we're doing. And you're more than welcome, Veronica. Thank you for being here. You're always a great support for me. And so if I can hear how in the comments how you are doing, how are you persevering through what's coming through? Because I know that we're coming at when's the full, I know Janet will know this, but the moon phase, because we're going to have so we are in a current moon cycle today. It is almost the waxing. No, I don't want to do that. Thank you. That it's going to be, is it going to be full or moon? I'm not too sure. I'll have to ask. Visit. I didn't get on the right website for that. Sorry about that. So we're in a moment right now of it's a waxing moon. So so with that, we're in the middle of a lot of things happening, and I'm sorry, I'm not looking this up very well. That we're coming into this next phase. I'm taking marshmallow root extract, colostrum, and sea moss. I'm really starting to feel good. That's amazing. I know because you work in a toxic place right now with a lot of senses and smells and that kind of stuff. And I know that your body's been overloaded and with all those toxins, Veronica. So it's good that you're taking care of yourself and being able to negotiate, you know, where we're going and what what's happening. And it's a moment of brilliance to show who we are and what we're doing. All these different things. So 92. So it's becoming more full. I think the moon is becoming more full. So we'll have an eclipse with the full moon, and that's about that ending. It's about the story of where we're at. It's about the beginning of who we are, and it's about that the light on the moon is about seeing in the dark what we need to let go of. And I know for me, I'm already feeling the energy. Like I was saying, I'm already feeling the energy of the stirring of what we're doing. And I think we're having Saturn go into retrograde also, or was it I'm relying on Janet here to clear up my understanding of what planets are going into retrograde and that kind of stuff, because I'm being honest with you, and I'm going to be like I tell people at school, if you want to talk to somebody who's vulnerable, it's me. That my dyslexia has been so impactful lately that it's been interesting being able to read straight. It's actually being interesting on how I am perceiving the written word around me. Making decisions for me hasn't been the easiest because I'm discombobulated, and I fall back into, when I'm doing that, I'm falling back into a truth that I have. And I'm so grateful for my intuition, because that I fall back into that a lot too. So, we're in a story of where we're at and what we're going, that it's amazing that this, what do we want to say? That going into who we are and what we're doing, God, peel back the layers of who you are. peel back the understandings of who you are, because this is a time to really be vulnerable with yourself. It's not scary when we're vulnerable with ourselves. It's actually scary when we don't look at ourselves, because that's when things build up. That's when the addictions can pop in. That's when a lot of these different things can pop in, because it is that part of it. So I am just so proud of you, Veronica, for taking care of you, especially since you're going through kind of I don't want to name it stressful, but it can be stressful, you know? So living life right now for your better is going to be the trick. And the mental state that we're in, that's so important. And I know for me that I really work on not having the mind run. Like when I'm troubled with something, I try not to have the mind just let it run. I really say, what can I do to bring this to a better place? What can I do, mind, to heal some of this old story? And so I add on a conversation with my mind. Okay, I know you're running right now, but what can we do to to problem solve this? What can you do, mind, to think about the story? And I know I've had some very big downloads lately of some energetic understandings that actually have given me some tools on the backside to know how to have these conversations better. And so coming into this, that we are in the midst of our minds wandering if we allow them. That we get into a story and our mind grabs onto it, possibility, and it just likes to run. And when we are in the middle of running with our mind, that's when we can go down rabbit holes. And so be careful of those rabbit holes. Start asking the question, what can I do to fix this? What can I do to support myself? What can I do to be who I am? What can I do, like the dragon says, to become more empowered? Just like the Lady of the Lake says, what can I do to unearth, get myself out of these storms, to negotiate so I can let go of the restrictions of the disruption, so that I can be more grounded, so my environment can be better, right? Those are the cards I pulled earlier. So be more at peace of where you're at, because if you are having some interesting times of self-awareness, I went to a celebration of life this last Friday, and it was amazing how that there was so many full circle moments that were coming in for me. People that, oh gosh, this story of this wonderful man took his life because he thought for some reason he had a negative moment. And he was my husband's boss that retired and sold the business, and actually he ended up passing away on my husband's birthday. Yeah, talk about big. And my husband really valued this man's understanding and amazingness. And with going through that celebration, well, what was interesting is that these people, there's certain people there that I knew, and I hadn't really deeply talked with them for over 30 years. And 30 years ago, for some reason, I did something that pissed them off, right? Pissed them off. So they stopped talking to me. We danced in the same group. Our friendships were all in the same group. I watched that person's kid for a long time after school, 2, 3, 4 years, right? He was almost not like one of mine, but at that time, because I was going through so much grief, that it was hard to claim even mine is mine, like my kids is mine. But, going into this, that I had this full circle moment, and it was kind of interesting because she talked about a time in her life last year that she didn't know what she did, and nobody communicated to her. So communication right now is so important. And we didn't talk about what I did back then, but we talked about moving forward. And I really realized, watching the wife of this man, who her her hi Janet, I'll let you on in just a second, that the man who committed suicide, that her his wife, I just witnessed being so shattered. And my love went to her, and then at the same time I realized how shattered I was 30 years ago from my grief, from my story. And so please remember that people are changing right now so much, that don't hold them to that story. And on that segue, I'm going to let Janet in because she's finally here, and I'm just so grateful to have her and talk about a woman who had to come through her own personal shatteredness. But we're not going to talk about that unless you want to. Here we go. Add you to the thing. Hi.
Hello, Natasha.
Thank you for being here.
Oh gosh, I intended on getting here a whole lot sooner, but you know how that goes, right? When you're uh trying to get done, of course, then you can't because there's all of these things that you have to do. Like I couldn't just like leave my client in the lurch. I had to finish what I started with her. So,
I totally can respect that. And I know
yeah.
that because I do sessions myself. And sometimes those sessions aren't just an hour. You cannot stop it at that moment, because especially right now, and I talked about people, and I pulled some oracle cards,
Woo,
at the beginning. And it was like a lot of like disruption and letting go, and a lot of that kind of stuff. And I know for me that I've spent an extra 10-15 minutes with somebody sometimes because of that need to help them through that moment. So thank you for being who you
yeah.
are. I was saying that you're an amazing person who just, oh my gosh, I just appreciate everything you've helped me through, to find myself.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. I mean, you know, first of all, we're women in a world that is often uh, harder for us to maneuver through. And on top of that, as a solopreneur, we have all of these things to learn, not just like your craft and how you do card readings or how you channel or do astrology, but you got to learn how to put it on YouTube and how to orchestrate all the social media stuff. So if we can't help one another, we're done. That's all there is.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So we were, I'm going to segue into this to be like, you asked me, you valued me so much and asked me to be in this energy almanac.
And it
I
stretched you, didn't it?
No, actually it didn't stretch me, but it was a moment where a lot of these things I was being asked to do intuitively. It just kind of brought me up into that timeline a little bit
Mhm.
more than when you're doing your own timeline, you kind of can do things on your own, but now I didn't have my own timeline, so I was grateful for that push. The universe knows how to push me. Like Michael
Mm.
says, Archangel Michael said, Natasha, you asked me not to use my tip of my boots, but I'm going to actually use my push and my and my energy to
Gonna
get you
use my
moving.
hips to kick you off there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, but the Energy Almanac is such a great publication and such a worthy place to showcase what it is that you do. I mean, you were like one of the first two people that I thought of when we were looking for contributors because I know the quality of the work that you do. And that to me is everything. Like, let's share that with the people who are, part of the Energy Almanac family.
Hmm.
So, and you rose to the occasion. You did it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I
Y-
have some channeled messages, some card readings. I have just intuitive messages. And I am one of four other people, including Janet and Tams, that are contributing to what what the almanac is something that, it gives each month what is the planet's going to do, what we feel is going to happen, and then some tools to negotiate it.
Yeah. Tools, the moons are also in that, and the gift and the shadow of the week that you're in, the do's and the don'ts, the other contributors, including yourself, tuning into what is happening for that particular period of time. That month is usually how they tuned in, and then creating an article or something that they could share with everybody through the almanac to help them move through that
Mhm.
month with ease and grace. And that's the beautiful part of it. I mean, Tam and I were doing the nuts and bolts of the operation, right? The month by month, this is the numerology, this is the astrology, this is the human design, and we leave it to our contributors to bring that together with other subjects that are supportive of the Energy
Mhm.
Almanac. And of course, I just got to say, the Energy Almanac right now is in pre-sale, right, for
That's why we're
September
doing this
1st.
right
That's
now.
yay, rah, rah. September 1st through 11th, you can purchase the coil bound books. And those are, and I meant to get mine off the shelf there before I got on air here, but I was like in a hurry.
Yeah.
The coil bound books are the ones, though, you've seen coil bound books. They open up and you can turn them, backwards. And, because the almanac is more than just, this book that you read, it is actually something you can journal in,
Mhm.
something you can write your thoughts in or notes to yourself about the energy for the month. You could even put your own astrology notes in it if you know how your chart looks.
Mhm.
And the coil bound books make that possible, that you can just open it up and have it right there to write in. So from now until the 11th, we take the pre-sale orders. The books get delivered in November, and along with that are bundles that you can get. For example, the coil bound book right now, if you buy just the book, you can get free shipping, which saves you probably, I don't know, $6 to $10, depending on where
Mhm.
you are in the world. And if you buy the other bundle, it's a bundle with the coil bound book, the free shipping, but also a free ticket to the Astrology of 2026 webinar that Tam and I, we both have always done them separate, different ones, but this year we're going to come
Gonna
together
begin.
and do that.
Mhm.
And
And I wanna make a segue because we've been using the name Tam. And
yes,
Tam is she is an amazing you do a podcast once a month that talks at the end of the month that talks about the next month, and you two co-create together this thing. And Tam's is the one that has been doing the almanac for what, 8 years now, and she is an
we
astrologer. She's a personal helper. She does a lot of
she's a
artistic.
coach. She's a
Yes,
coach and an
coach.
artist and all of that.
Oh
And
my gosh, the drawings that she does in this book are just amazing.
yeah, the art alone is well worth the, cost of getting the book, I swear. But
Mhm.
also, Tam had a vision back in, 8 years ago, and, she contacted me. Somebody had referred me to her, or her to me, and she called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I hear you're this person that I need as an astrologer. Here's my vision." And I saw the vision right then. So I've actually been associated with the Energy Almanac for 8 years
Since the
alongside Tam.
beginning.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
just been this year that I took on some ownership of it,
Yeah.
and we became like co-owners of the Energy Almanac.
Mhm.
And when you do something like that, you're blending the brains, the artistry, the information of two people, which can sometimes be a little challenging, but it is amazing that how that work shows up, how that quality shows up in the books. So
And that's one thing I want people to know is that right now we're going through a lot of personal challenges. And but, it's like, I on my newsletter, I'm writing, "I'm excited for this time." You know, I'm very excited for this time because the stirring of the pot that I'm going through, boy, it's going to shake out something that is for my betterment. And if
yeah,
keeping that intention that it's like, wow, I'm just so grateful that this vision of understanding has been coming to me to see the greaterness of the shakeup. That it's like, you know, I even, take an argument with someone that is dear to you, that argument, if you take the walk of better intentions, the higher steps of it, it really can bring out a very great understanding of where we need to go as a couple, or as a relationship, or coworkers, or whatever it is, if you're
Yeah.
willing to stretch and pull that moment. And I'm just so grateful that I have that insightfulness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And astrology is a big part of everything that we've been talking about. The times that we live in are really there because we have had in just 1 year all of the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter, all change signs. When a planet changes signs, it changes the society, the culture that we're a
Mhm.
part of, right? The other planets are in planets, inner planets. So they are changing us fundamentally as a person, right? An individual. But those outer planets are society and culture plus the collective. So there
Mhm.
have been big, big shifts and changes, and those carry into 2026. In fact, all those planets that made changes have turned retrograde now, and they're retrograding backward to the signs they were in previous, almost like we need to finish out the journey of the previous signs. And in 2026, they return, right? Once they return, it's almost like there's no opportunity to look back anymore because they're moving into signs that are forward looking, right?
Mhm.
Aquarius for Pluto, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. It's all about what's new. It's all about our sovereignty and how we stand out and claim our identity. And then Uranus in Gemini is the innovator, right? This big thrust for innovation and technology, including AI, and how far do we want to take that? Right? How far is too far? How far is enough?
Mhm.
Then Jupiter in Cancer right now, really helping us to see where it is we're out of alignment with compassion. Where's our hearts in all of this, right? Because there's a lot of uglies happening in the outer world. When you look around and you see,
Yes.
war, and you see, the potential for all the blowups with immigration in all countries, not just the US, you see that there is this need that we have to fall back on for that Cancerian quality of love and nurturing and caring and compassion and empathy, tenderness that is missing in all the harshness of some of the changes that we've been making. So hopefully it tempers some of the big things that are going.
We hope, because I know my double Cancerian that I have in me tampers a lot of these big blowups that
Yeah.
are around me. That I just have this way of, it's not my fight. It's
Mhm.
not, it's like I'm really good at discerning through certain things as soon as I get through that first emotional story of it.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes we have to get through that first, that wave of things happening, and then we go, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
let me get my footing around it.
And the reason why this is very palpable in the United States, it's because we are a cancer nation, right? July 4th is cancer. And
Mhm.
our country was built upon principles of valuing compassion and empathy and care and, taking care and among other kinds of qualities
Mhm.
too. But and how is that playing out for us? Because that means the USA is, having Jupiter play a role in the sun with the nation, which is the leader, right? The sun always represents the leader in a nation's chart, and so we see that playing out every day, right? With the way that our leaders lead. And then we also have a USA Pluto return, which is when a planet comes back to the point it was at when it started, or when in a birth chart, for example.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
humans never have a Pluto return because it takes 248 years for Pluto to go around, and we don't live that long,
Yeah,
but a nation
as
does.
humans, yes, yeah.
Yeah, but a nation, does live that long, does have that length of time where you see the transformational energies come back into play. So here we are, transforming, right? Transforming from what the Revolutionary War brought us to now. Well, what is the new identity? What is going to be the USA's identity over the next, say, 10 to 20 years? Maybe,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
it's big.
it is, and that's one thing that I love about the perspective that astrology brings in. because it doesn't necessarily mean that it affects our personal choices. But yet at the same time, though, that's the human design and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, though, I love how the astrology kind of has that. Like, I can tell you, usually, like this eclipse energy, I usually start getting the taps what that eclipse energy is going to be about a week and a half beforehand or more. I mean, it's more, but yet at the same time, though, the heightenedness is so by the time the eclipse happens, it's like, huh, that's the work I was doing when you mentioned the work that we're going to be doing during the eclipse. So I usually was doing it for a week
Yeah.
beforehand, right?
But eclipses can sometimes start appearing energetically 3 months before it. So
Yes.
this is September. If we go back to late June, we were experiencing what could be the precursor to these eclipses, and they're in a very interesting place because across Virgo and Pisces, we're dealing with victimhood, we're dealing
Mhm.
with martyrdom, we're dealing with how is it that we can combine health and wellness in our everyday routines, and how is it that we can be spiritual and be enlightened by higher concepts of how it is that we're here to be together. And yeah, it's a
It's amazing dance. It's an amazing
yeah,
dance. And
yeah,
I'm just
it is.
so grateful that, it's like I know for me that I was talking about being shattered 30 years ago, you
Hmm.
know, that moment where I was walking through my grief, just trying to survive, didn't even know how to be Natasha at that point in time when everything was happening. And yet
Yeah.
I was a mom of two and a wife and just moved into a house and, just dealing with my whole family's been passing away that, it was like I realized how much I'm not so shattered anymore because I'm kind of finishing up with my second Saturn return. So 30 years ago was the first Saturn return.
Yep.
So it's like there's been a lot of mirroring of what I was, and I'm not that person anymore. And I'm so grateful for to be able to say I'm standing up a lot straighter than I used to, you know?
Well, and the second Saturn return, for those of you who are in your later 50s, is a time of pruning away all those qualities and things and people and jobs or homes that don't resonate anymore. Like
Hmm.
you're pruning away so that what's left is what's most valuable, what's most workable, what's most you. So you're at a kind of a tender moment, in your life cycles, having that second Saturn return.
Well, and
Yeah.
I'm also in a personal 9 year. The Earth is in a personal 9 year. And my husband's in his second Saturn return at the same time. And there was one other thing that I was working through that was kind of an ending and a new beginning opportunity. Oh, it's the year of the snake in the Chinese year of the snake. So it's
Oh,
about shedding the old skin. So it's like, let me go along for the ride. Talk about being able to negotiate through endings and new beginnings, right?
and
It's
we're all going through that in some way, shape, or form. You know,
exactly.
and all of us have these planets somewhere in our chart, right? They're transiting through, moving through Aries, let's say, the Aries part of your
Mhm,
chart. So whatever house relationship that calls up for you is the area of your life where the biggest changes are taking place, where you're really being asked to elevate your sovereignty and to be you, pulling yourself into your strength. But unfortunately, what we're seeing in the outer world are a bunch of maverick cowboys, right? Who are just like playing by the rules that they decide they're going to make up. And that's a part of Aries too. So we're going to take, we've got to see how, that shadowy part of Aries energy, when combined with the higher qualities of Aries, are going to shake out in terms of society. But you
mhm,
personally have it going on somewhere in your chart. My Aries is in my 10th house of career and profession. So there have
mhm,
been a lot of opportunities for me to stand out. Even coming on your show here helps me to be, seen in a different way.
mhm.
Um, and, some people, if you have an Aries rising sign, for example, you have a Cancer rising, don't you?
I have a Cancer. I have two Cancerians and an Aries, so I'm not too sure. If, I think my Moon is in Cancerian, and then my because I'm July 11th, and so I think my Aries is my rising, and so married to a double Leo Libra. So it's like, that fire is always turning up. And Paula says, Paula, hi Paula, thank you for being here. I feel like I've been thrown into victimhood over the last week. I'm trying to
Muddle
muddle
through.
through it, but it's like being under an attack energetically.
Yeah. And that is something that a lot of people have mentioned, right? They feel like, they're being singled out for something, whether that is, their job performance or their family blaming them for things or things like that. And, a lot of that has to do with Aries energy, which is really calling us to be our independent, interdependent selves. In the end, that's the highest expression when we can, belong but also be our own self within the belonging. So
Mm-hmm.
that means, in a family, you might not resonate with all those family members, right? They have their own way of thinking and yours might be completely different, but that doesn't make you wrong. But it does help you to see how it is that you can blend your energies with other people, right? Libra being the opposite point there, Libra being the peacemaker, the diplomat, the tactician, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love astrology. I could talk it all darn day, but the big thing is that
And
there's
but it's also that part of right and wrong and OCD-ness and all that. But that's also Leo. Leo has that OCD tendencies too. And
yeah, but that's also a real Virgoan trait. And Virgo asks us to heal those kinds of imbalances. And we have a Virgo eclipse this weekend on Sunday. And then we have a Pisces eclipse. No, we have a Pisces eclipse this Sunday and a Virgo eclipse on the 21st. So again, that axis is being highlighted. We're being asked to step out of that victimhood. So really,
Mhm.
Paula, the universe kind of may be doing you a favor to show you where it is you might still be resonating a bit with the victim energy, allowing you the opportunity to step out of that old pattern, right? Get out of that pattern and see yourself as not a victim, but as the shiny soul who has direction and independence and can do her own thing and still be in relationship with others.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly. She says, yes, being a Libra, Leo moon, and Virgo rising. So you're in the thick of it. You're in the thick of where all the planets are like really stepping into, trigger that moment of ahas for you. That's one thing I
yep.
noticed when there was a lot of planets that were in Cancer, and I took the moment, even though I felt like there was like this heaviness on me and this like moment. It was during the summer when everything seemed like it was in Cancer. That it was like, because I think Mars was in Cancer, and I have a Mars in Cancer naturally. And so it was like that, like, how can I get through these emotions? And it was so heavy
Yeah.
and yeah, really thick, but I really used it as a moment where it's like, how can I unearth these things that really, it was almost like feeling like I needed to use a bulldozer to really unearth,
An excavator.
an excavator to really unearth where I was at, that I really needed to find my truth so that I can find the truth to be with others,
Yeah.
because that's the time when I was starting to get labeled, and I have a couple naysayers in my life, and it was time for me to get that labeling undone so that I could be, it doesn't matter the way my brain is. It doesn't matter how it is. I'm happy with the way my brain works now. How that it triggers other people, that's up to them. Yet I'm responsible for helping them with that trigger, if that makes sense.
Well, but you're also, looking out there and seeing how it is that you measure up against that trigger. Because if it doesn't bother you anymore, you've done your work, right?
Exactly.
There's nothing
It's
left for
it's
you to do about it.
exactly, and that's that whole fine line between being neutral about things. I'm not going to say
Yes.
numb, but
Neutral,
neutral,
neutral.
neutral with things, because there is a difference between neutral and numb. But neutral with things so that they don't, I'm not triggered by their triggers, but I honor the emotion and the story that's coming to me, so I don't negate what that other person is going through. Because
Yeah.
it is about honoring their emotions, honoring my emotions at the same time, not necessarily let those emotions be the trigger.
Yeah.
Does
It's
that
a
make sense?
it is a total it is showing that you've done the work, right?
Yes.
That in astrology, it's often Chiron that we look to for the wound, the very deepest wound that we're carrying. And it's the piece that when you notice it, that like you just said, like that those comments weren't stinging like they used to. You've done the chironic healing work
Mhm.
that's been required, among other planets that are also involved with that in our charts and other houses and so forth where that shows up. But it takes time in our lives. We have to actually consciously connect with this healing work, and I think this is where astrology and a almanac like the Energy Almanac can be
Oh,
so
yeah.
helpful because it brings it right into your face. Okay, today is moon in Scorpio, so I might be prepared today to look under the rug. What's under
Mhm.
there? um, am I aligned with my passion or not? Am I aligned with
Exactly.
someone else's idea of passion?
Mhm.
Because those are the things that bring us to our truth, to bring us to our authentic selves. It's very
Mhm.
important, right? And having a guide like the almanac is priceless, right?
Oh, I have wished that I've gotten it, but there again is my delaying, and that Michael wants me to not do as much anymore, is, that delay of getting certain things at certain times, and it's like I call them flybys, phew, and then like I didn't grab those in time. But Chandra says, "Say hi, Chandra. I'm so glad you're here." She's been a client of mine
Hi.
and a friend now, and she says, "So happy to be here and love that Janet is your guest."
Oh,
Yes,
love it.
Tams is actually going to be my guest next Wednesday, and we're going to talk about her story and how she applies the Energy Almanac and that kind of stuff. We're trying to get things in because I am just so excited to be a part of this. So,
It is exciting.
you talk a lot about what I love about your style of astrology is like when you talk about Mars. A lot of times in your show and in your sessions, you really talk about what character Mars plays. You know the backstory of the Greek, the different aspects of where Mars comes in or Uranus comes in, or it's like the story of Black Moon Lilith. You really
Mhm.
know that depth. I mean, you're a double Gemini, right? So
No, 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 no. I am a Gemini sun, Virgo moon, and a Cancer rising.
that's right. Okay.
Yes, but
So yeah,
it
so go ahead.
I think the sun for me is in the 12th house of the chart, which is kind of a secret garden, if you will, of sunshine, my own
Mhm.
little world. And my own little world is very mythological. And so the archetypal energies of the planets play so well with the energy. Well, they're named after these mythic gods and these
Mhm.
stories that hold grains of truth about who we are as humans. And that's what I so love. When we see a Mars, we know Mars is a catalyst energy. He is an action warrior. And I loved this graphic I did this last couple weeks ago where Mars moved into Libra, a sign where he is not very happy and can't do his best work. And there was this picture I found of a Viking warrior just dropped in the middle of like a city where all of these millennial Gen Xers were, doing this like chat that they're having. And he's like, oh my God, what am I supposed
What
to
do I
do with
do
this?
here?
What do I do here? I don't fit here. And it was just so perfect because, the archetype of Mars is the warrior, the
Mhm.
activator, the catalyst, the moving forward. And in Libra, he had to wait for others, right? Because there's so many sides of a story going on with Libra. And that's the beauty of knowing the myths right behind the story is that, okay, inside every human is a Mars. We all have Mars somewhere in our chart.
Mhm.
And that Mars is where it is. We're likely going to be the catalyst, maybe for others, or we're going to take action sometimes without thinking. It might be our act first, think later place of our chart. And then the maturing process of Mars, right? Moving Mars action out of the juvenile sort of, act first, think later into the considering Mars that is like, yeah, I'm weighing this and the cost benefit is I'm going there, I'm doing that,
Mhm.
right? The
Yes.
risk taking that is, more deliberate. So
Yes.
all of the planets are characters and they have a mythic purpose in your chart, in your life.
Mhm. I know mine is on 0 between my 1st and 12th house. And so it's like he's always been a catalyst for the endings and new beginnings, and that whole story of that unearthing of the deepness of who I am, and that even though I'm a double Cancerian, I've noticed the fire in me, that firing rate, that it's
Yeah.
like never came out as anger, but it came out as passion. It came out as drive. It came out as that you're not moving me from my goal.
Yeah.
You're not moving me from my catalyst of who I'm meant
I'm
to
sticking
be.
here.
I'm
I'm
I'm walking this path, and my naysayer has tried to shove me off, and every time he does, it's like I get on that 50-yard mark and I'm walking it. It's like I cannot not be me.
Yeah. But that's exactly what Mars, should be doing in a chart, but just doing it in a way that is maturing over the course of time,
Yeah, and
right?
it has. It
Yeah.
has. It has. Well,
And
me, it's like I used to be so shy and quiet, and now it's like, here I am.
I know, and I looked at your YouTube channel, and I went, "Where did she get all those subscribers?" Because when we were first talking about you doing a YouTube, you're like, "Well, how do I get subscribers?"
I know
And
I was at 50, and then
there they are.
universe allowed me to do some work that unearthed me. I always felt like I was in a small room, and I found somebody to help me break out of that small room. And then after that, I just started floating. And then I was gifted with, right after that, being on the Next Level Soul. And then I was on Coast to Coast Radio right after that. And then it's like it's been part of this evolution of like
Yeah,
you being able to negotiate this. So
yeah,
how can, we're coming toward, how do you have any tools, because I know you do human design also, and you
yes,
do the gene keys, and so you kind of evolve. It's like the hand. It's like you can't just grab onto something with your pinky.
no,
It's like you use all these tools, which I know when you did my human design, there were so many little ahas I had. It's like
yeah,
even being the type of the trait that I am, that I have to wait to be invited or wait for that conversation. It's like I always wondered why people would speak over me, or I couldn't speak in a group. And it was like, just even using the words, hey, I have something. Are you interested in hearing it? That's an invitation to come in to the conversation. And
yeah,
I have just noticed that my drive to be heard wasn't so like angst about it. It was more setback and just more, it is what it is, and I'll say what I need to say, and I'll use my discernment, and just go with it. So
yep.
how
Because
does go ahead.
human design really helps us with our energy, who we are designed to be at the energetic level. And we use, energy centers that are sort of like chakras, which field energies in the human body. We have different gates that connect across channels that are really related to the DNA that you have. Your DNA makeup is embodied in the astrology, also human design, but also the gene keys, thus the name gene keys.
Mhm.
And the idea is for you to align with what your energetic signature is. For someone who, like you, has an, and me, we both have open throats. That is a center that wants and craves recognition, that wants to be able to speak and to share and to uplift. And to do that, we have to wait for an invitation, or else we get talked over, or we get ignored, or people don't value what it is that we have to say. So it's a real hard practice at first with an open throat center to sit back and wait for the invitation, right? Because
Exactly. And that's one thing that I really noticed, like even like having my husband's chart done and then mine, I noticed how we can engage with the energy flow.
Mhm.
Like, how I can, like him, he's got a lot of lower open areas, and I'm full lower, and it's like, so, it's like who I am can either have him be an energy vampire or an energy, or we can negotiate it a little differently. And
Yeah,
so it's like, and this is when he was drinking a lot, that he would just, because he was open. So when you have an open center, you're taking in what other people have to offer, right?
yeah,
And so when he's around negativity, he's more negative. If he's more around positive, which he's loves about me, then it fills back up into that energy field. And so it's very interesting. I love, actually I'm going to have a session with you next Friday, that,
I saw that.
yeah, yeah, so because I just need some, I haven't done my yearly reading, and so it was time for me to get
Yeah, our relationship is tricky there because my son was what died on
my birthday.
Natasha's birthday, and the first year right afterwards was the hardest, right? That date was already so emotional and hard, hard, hard to have that first anniversary. But since then, things have gotten better. I have a completely different view of death and the other side and all of that.
And that's
Uh,
what grief usually does for us. It flips us inside and out and outside and in and then back outside again. And then we can, yeah.
Yeah, it is so true. So true. But with human design, we get this inkling about how it is that we're designed to be in relationships as well. And something weird happens along the way. As you come to know yourself, you become way more tolerant about others because we start to learn, hey, this is how I'm designed. I wonder if that person is designed that way. And then we begin to just appreciate and validate one another and the energy that we each have and the way that we each are in entering into relationships and jobs and money and all that kind of stuff. So human design, I think, is a real helper to astrology. And
Mhm.
then the gene keys are for you if you're going deeper. If you want to see what the shadow is and how to elevate back to the gift level of that feature of your chart, or go to the highest level of it, the gene keys help you do that. So I really
Mhm.
love helping people merge through all of those different levels.
Mhm.
And I share the gift and the shadow each week in the Energy Almanac, and that is almost in part almost wholly human design and gene keys, not so much the astrology of the week, but the human design and the gene keys of the week that really help me tune in to what is the shift that we need to make from the shadow to the gift for the week.
Mhm. Yeah, because you do a weekly Monday and Friday podcast at 8 o'clock on your YouTube channel. And I
Yes.
know that that's a lot of the things, but there's a different little negotiation that the Energy Almanac does, because it isn't just your words, it's Tam's understandings, and then it's other people who've been the guest like me that, can give
Contribute. Yeah.
yeah, that contribute to some skills and some understandings, and that deeper understanding of, like, for me, I like to come a lot more into the emotional base of where we're at and what we're doing. And because emotions are so big in the 3D world that we're living right now. And it's amazing. So I love that what you do on your show is that you do give what the week of the gene keys
Transits.
and the
Yeah.
human design is that, because that gives a basis of, oh, that is the intention that I'm working on. No wonder that's being triggered in my life to give me aha moments so I can negotiate it with a different, and we keep saying, God, I thought I worked on that. Gosh, I worked on that. But every year, the planets, we get a season every spring and fall of the eclipses, right?
Yep.
And then we get we get these planets that do the retrograde, and every year that they do a retrograde, then we have the human design that every week is a certain week that works with certain gates. So you get
Yep.
these repeating moments all the time that makes you go, now did you get it? Did you get the true energy? Oh, maybe we need this other perspective that's bringing this year in. Are you in the moment where you can really see what's happening? Oh, wait a minute, this year we're going to give you this perspective. Okay, yeah, we can do that. It's like, and I love the universe for that. So Paula, she is on what's your YouTube channel again?
It's Living Astrology, and it is Mondays and Fridays from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, it's always on YouTube. It's always on Facebook as well. I have a Living Astrology Facebook page, and it broadcasts to both pages, both YouTube and Facebook. So if you miss it, or you're in a time zone where it doesn't work for you to be at 8 o'clock, or it's too early for you, you can catch it later in the replay.
So if they even look for you, Janet Hickox, right? Um,
Yeah,
that they
I
can
would,
find
I
you on YouTube, right?
probably, yeah, I would say look for Living Astrology. Because that's probably, I mean, I have a channel that's got a lot of videos on it, so it should show up
Mhm.
there. But, try it with my name and see. I've never done that. I should play with that and see. I was wondering if I could, but I don't see if I can join the chat to
YouTube. I'm putting it up right
Or
now.
maybe I can share in a private chat to you what the link is for people to
Yeah,
go
why
and
don't
get.
you do that? And then I
There we
can
go.
I can copy and paste it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been talking about how my dyslexia has been so like talk about molasses.
Oh gosh.
But I, like I just started school, so I've been totally in my spiritual world. I've been letting my ADHD and dyslexicness just have a joyfulness this summer of just being what it needed to be. And now I have to go through to the confines of uh of um of
Being
that
the teacher,
moment.
being in the classroom, being having to split
Exactly.
your time between your own work and the work you do
Exactly.
in the
Exactly.
outer
So I'm
world.
going to copy and paste this.
Yeah, the first link is if you want to purchase the Energy Almanac, which I would say you're September 1st to 11th. It's the time to do that. And that link will take you where you can buy either the bundle with just the book or the bundle that has the $75 worth of webinar in December about
Mhm.
the astrology of 2026. And then the other link is to my YouTube channel. So you can go directly there.
Yes, 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 and I should have separated that, I apologize. So because I when I copied and pasted, they put them together, so,
Oh, I see that, yes.
I will repaste, and then I will, because it's like when I do it, it doesn't show it as,
Hmm.
um, spacing, there we go. It didn't let me space it, even though it was spaced when I put it on in the comments, but that's life. Here we're doing you know what? I've really felt like Mercury was in retrograde for the last 3 years. But I said that I
I.
you know, but it's like I find that whatever the new year, the 2024, 2025 year, if we have like a theme starting it, and Mercury has been in retrograde, the beginning or the end of the previous year,
Yeah.
and for the last couple, and so it's that's been the theme of kind of that, rethink, re-say, re-know, re-understand, the re-re-re's to become our greater self. So,
But
uh,
also the end of the year and the beginning, you're counting that January 1st is the new year. Well, that's an arbitrary date based on the Gregorian
yes,
calendar.
yes,
The astrological new year actually
it's
begins at
Aries.
the spring equinox in
I
Aries,
agree.
0 Aries. And the almanac, we've shifted to create the book to be in alignment with the astrological new
I love
year.
that.
So
Hmm.
everything that's new is supposed to be in, the month of March.
Hmm.
Um, and everything that is, winter should be at the beginning of the winter solstice. And we just don't do it that way. It's just arbitrary to have a new year beginning on January 1st. There is no spiritual reason to it. So it's void of any spirituality. It's really just a party day, a reason to get together. And that's fine too. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you're really serious about being in alignment with the natural cycles of time, then you really have to start the year when the natural cycle of time begins,
Hmm.
which is March 19th or 18th, depending 20th, depending on when that equinox occurs. And doing so then puts you in this natural flow with the universe. Really, January to March is ending the previous cycle.
Exactly. And I think that's why I've actually enjoyed this Mercury in retrograde feel,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of that, the rethinks, and it's that resetting up. And I know that I was born in the middle of a lot of retrogrades. So to me, retrogrades are like they're almost
Retrograde
home.
heaven.
They're it's almost home, and I know that you feel that way with Mercury too. Sometimes it's like it's
Uh-huh.
just
I have
it's
Mercury
the
retrograde.
transition. Yeah, it's the transition before and the transition after, and so it's a moment where we can do. So I'm just so grateful for you, Janet, that
Thank you.
you've given, and I hope that whoever has been listening today, that if they choose to come to you and have a session with you, that I know that they've been life altering for me, and it's really given me, even like there was one time you used and many different words in this one session, but being a good
Mm.
steward of my money, being a and just using even those you use certain words like that are very like peaceful to say, oh, it's time for me to shift that up and be more of a steward of who I am, and I've been so
Yeah.
grateful for that wisdom that has come forward.
Good. Thank you very much. And that's true. When I do a session with people, I'm really mindful of, I mean, I'm certainly never going to not tell you the truth because that's just not me either. But
Mhm,
I can
mhm.
certainly, say it in a way that feels more uplifting and more
Yes.
aligned. And
Mhm.
being a good steward is, one thing, but telling you, hey, you're coloring outside the lines and out of boundaries. You got to, erect some boundaries here is probably not as positive as it could be. Certainly doesn't sound that way. But being
Yeah.
a good steward, I think we can go, oh yeah, yeah, it's my responsibility to be the caretaker of my money or of my time or of my
Mhm,
health or of my whatever, right? We can
mhm.
all resonate with that. So I do sometimes use different words. I bring in different planets. I have a different way of looking at it than a lot of astrologers.
You do, and I've been grateful for that. I've been
Thank
so
you.
grateful for that.
Yeah.
Well, Janet, we've come to a time that you probably need to get your life going,
Dinner
and
time.
yep, and I do too. But I want you to know that you are amazing. So if you people need to I put your information in the bio of this show, and I will copy and paste and re-put the Energy Almanac and your YouTube channel. Make sure that that's
Perfect.
there. I think I did already, but I want to make sure,
Yeah.
and then we'll do that. But to readmit that or restate that you can buy the Energy Almanac from now until the 11th for the spiral part. If you want the almanac after that, you will just get a regular book that
Yes, a
is
paperback copy.
yeah, you can write in it and that kind of stuff. The luxury of the spiral is that you can move it around, you can turn it in backwards, and it's just more
Yeah.
flexible to lay on a table than a book. And so
Yeah.
you can buy the book up until even into the next year. So this is
Yes.
a moment that we're trying to push the button into saying the spiral is the
Right,
gift.
and think of it as a gift, like, you can buy it for your friends or your family. They make great gifts. Every year, I get about 30 copies because I give at least 10 of them to, the people in my family, right, for Christmas gifts.
Mm-hmm.
It's my special thing that I get for them every year. So, you can do it that way, you can do it just for yourself, and, of course, it's always good to have something that you can look to for what is happening in the stars above.
Exactly. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. And thank you,
Yeah.
Janet, for being
Thank
you.
you for having me on the show. I really have enjoyed this time, as short as it was. I'm sorry I couldn't come in right at 4, but, buy
Okay,
your
so does
energy almanac.
Chandra was saying, does each day help you align with the daily frequency?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Right,
Yes.
because the transits are, they're happening on a daily basis. We look at them weekly, but TAM also does break them down, by days. Like, by Wednesday, you might be feeling blue because the moon is moving through Scorpio and you're feeling emotional or something like that. So, yeah, it does the bigger picture and the smaller picture.
Exactly. And you
Yeah,
are live on your YouTube channel pretty much unless a holiday happens, every Monday and Friday at 8 o'clock Pacific time. And
correct.
then on Wednesdays, the last Wednesday of the month, you usually have a time with TAMS at that 8 o'clock time on your YouTube channel.
Correct, and we run down or we preview the month ahead. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Which half the time I don't remember, but I just know at these certain times, that's when I need to pay attention.
pay attention. Right,
But
pay
I can always
attention.
go back and rewatch, right?
That's
Um,
right, exactly, those are also on my YouTube channel for everybody to look at, so,
exactly.
yeah.
So I am looking forward to having Tams next week, her unique story of this energy almanac and how she negotiates the energy in her story. And
Yep,
I am looking forward to being with her next Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time. So Janet, thank you for being you. I hope
you're
that
welcome.
everything that comes with you and for you with a complete abundance of light and love, and that
Thank you,
you
and
are amazing.
mwah, same to you.
We'll
Alright,
talk we'll talk to you soon and see you next
bye for
Friday.
now.
Mhm,
Yay!
bye.
Okay, bye for now.
So you can reach me, and you can also see me on my normal podcast every day through the week. I have many different short little videos that you can watch for support. And if you're looking for sessions, Janet and I are here for you. Just go to my YouTube channel, Natasha Mentor Natasha Mentor Intuitive Clarifications, and Janet is on living-astrology.com.
That's it.
Okay. Well, blessings, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.